What would you do if you came home one afternoon just to grab something from your house? You just park on the street, and as you're walking to the front door, you can't help but smell some smoke. What would you do? Well, obviously, you take a quick, big picture of your house to see if you saw any smoke coming out of your own home, right? And of course, as soon as you did that, you'd notice that there's a little bit of smoke off in your peripheral vision. It's your neighbor's house. Now, what would you do if you saw your neighbor's house on fire? Would you just casually walk on over there, and realizing, of course, that they always, are in the back of the house having their coffee and cigarettes this time of the day when you came home, and the fire's upstairs? Would you still go to the front door and casually knock? Would you run around the back? What would you do? Of course. And then what if they come to the door? Would you then proceed to say, I don't mean to interrupt you. I know you like your coffee and cigarettes at this time of day, but I think you might want to know, I think your house might be on fire. Is that how you do it? Of course not. That's ridiculous. What would you do? You know what you would do. You'd start screaming at the top of your lungs immediately. Yelling at your neighbors, call the fire department. Yelling at your neighbors in the backyard. You wouldn't go to the front yard, you'd run to the back, you'd be screaming, house is on fire, house is on fire. You'd be screaming and yelling. And that's why I am out here screaming and yelling half the time. Because I realize my species is on fire. Literally. And we're doing it with cooking. It's the first mistake. It's the original cause, original sin, the first cause. Without that mistake, we wouldn't have made all the other mistakes that have got us where we are. Now, that's a hard concept for a lot of people to understand for many reasons. First of all, when we think about this, we have first cause, original sin. What do people think of? First, original. Do you ever consider the word cause and sin? A lot of people really don't. They just hear the first and the original, and when they think, well, what could be the first cause? What do they end up doing? They go somewhere before the cause, thinking that they're clever. They say, no, that can't be the cause. It's up here. There's something. It's original. It's first. There's a reason why so many people don't understand such a philosophical concept or discussion as this, and yet you're going to get people want to give you their 2 cents, even though they don't know anything about it except how they've been brainwashed and conditioned to think they know what the fall is. It's obvious we don't know what the fall is, otherwise we wouldn't have the hell we have right now. A lot of people don't understand the concept of the first cause. A lot of people are not philosophers by nature. They don't ask what and what if. They never play the scenario out. What would happen if everyone stopped cooking their food? What would happen if money disappeared overnight? What would happen? And what you're going to find is idiots that want to argue about this subject, and they're not even what if and why people. They're not even qualified. And yet, they got an opinion, don't they? But the biggest problem here is our lack of education. We have not been taught the most basic understanding of how things work. And it's actually the basis behind a very special teaching tool I created. I struggled for many years trying to figure out, well, what's a clever name to call this? And in my quest, I realized that there were in effect 3 stages of knowledge. So when you hear me talk about my special teaching tool, I say it uses knowledge in a way that's never been seen before. This is the problem we have. If you're going to talk about something profound like the fall of mankind and you don't understand the 3 stages of knowledge, you're not going to be able to contribute anything meaningful because you won't know what's important. And what's important when it comes to the fall of mankind? Only one thing. What is it that we did so we can stop doing it? So, there's 2 things we have to understand about the fall of mankind. First of all, there's 3 stages of knowledge, and we can represent the fall of mankind in all those 3 stages and even in the doorways in between them. But the most important thing, and why this is such an important topic, is that the fall of mankind is not just an event that happened in the past. It's an event that's happening today. And that's why it's so important for us to understand it. Because the future could change. We don't have to keep repeating ourselves if we can understand the significance of what the first cause is and correct it. So, that's why it's important. It happened in the past. There's a whole different set of pieces to describe what happened in the past compared to what's happening in the present. We can't go back the same way we came. The way we came originally, the first fall of mankind, is different than the way it is now. Because the way it is now is all through our traditions and ignorance. So a quick lesson of these three stages of knowledge is simple. Knowledge is acquired, applied, and manifested. First stage, second stage, third stage. Acquired, applied, manifested. Thoughts, actions, reactions. Beliefs, causes, effects. You get it? Actions, causes, second stage of knowledge. So when I talk about the fall of mankind, I don't give a hoot what's in the first stage, or the doorway in between, or the doorways coming into the second stage. What's in the second stage so we can stop doing it? What are we doing? We're cooking our food. And what are you going to have when you try to have a conversation with people? They're going to run to one of the two boxes that precede the second stage, or one of the three doorways. If you look at my tool, I have 6 boxes, 18 portals that logically connect all the boxes, identify 281 pieces. There are a lot of pieces that precede the second stage. The fall of mankind happened a different way than the way it's happening now. There's 2 ways we can make a mistake, which is a sin, the original sin. There's 2 ways we can do that. We can do it by ignorance, and that's what we're doing now. We don't know. We're passing down our mistakes through our traditions. So tradition's piece number 4. This lack of knowledge makes us make a bad application. In the beginning, that's not what happened. We knew what we were doing. We knew how to satisfy our needs. That's what's up in the plus A box of knowledge. When you satisfy those, you come up here and you make a right action. This is a wrong action. Second stage, right here in the middle. So, thoughts, actions, reactions, beliefs, cause, effects. The things we think, the things we do or have done to us, and the things we get. Belief system, lifestyle choices, feedback system. Feedback system. We have a dark side to our behavior. That's part of our feedback. Oh, that's the fall of mankind. No, that has a ripple effect, and now that keeps us where we are. The key that we have to understand about the fall of mankind is that we don't know for sure what we did and why we did it. We can speculate a lot of ways. I've thought about many ways why we could have not done what we knew to do and do something as stupid as alter our food with fire. There's a lot of scenarios that can be created. There can be all types of catastrophes that put us in that situation. Curiosity is the top one on my list. We're just curious creatures. We probably traveled in areas that we weren't meant to live in the wintertime and then had to do something in that wintertime. There's all sorts of ways that could have happened. But you can't say curiosity is the fall of mankind. That's the first cause. Because even if that is our problem as a species, we're curious. And we experiment, we do things. We can't change that. And even if we could, it doesn't correct the cooking of our food. That's why we don't want to look at what precedes the second stage of knowledge when we talk about the fall of mankind. We got to look at what we're doing so we know what to stop doing. This isn't complicated. This is child's play. In fact, my 6-box system is as simple as playing 2 square. There's 6 boxes, or actually 3 boxes with pluses and minuses. 3 pluses, 3 negatives. Knowledge. Satisfy your needs. Make good applications. What do we have? Peace and harmony. We're in paradise. No problems within our control. False knowledge. Mistakes. That's a sin. That's what the word sin means. It's a mistake. Now we're living in the dark ages. Hundreds of thousands of problems. All because of what we're doing. We got to look at the first cause. Oh, but John, there's a lot of things that cause things. And I go, you bet. That's why when you think of the first cause, you have to realize what it's in the second stage. And then there's a ripple effect where effects become causes. Those are subsequent causes. You see? The dark side of our behavior is an effect. So it was an effect first because the first mistake created it. And then that has a ripple effect. Effects become causes, causal loop. So now we have a problem. We have actually a problem of knowledge right there. Is we've got the dark side of our behavior in that second stage. But then it ripples around, and also we have a knowledge loop. And everyone knows that experience is the best teacher. So yeah, if you think about it this way, if you think about how my 6-box system works, or my 3-box system with pluses and minuses, where there's a ripple effect, where what we get comes back around and affects what we do, and it also affects how we think. A way to think of that, I was just thinking of this just before I came out here. And I've thought about it a long time ago, actually. But think of it this way. We wake up, we do things, we go to bed. We wake up, we do things, we go to bed. We wake up, that's the first stage. We do things or have things done to us, that's the second stage. We go to bed. And of course, when we go to bed, our body repairs and regenerates itself if we get a good night's sleep. And then we wake up. So what we get at the end comes back to what we are, and it starts off all day. So that's what life is all about. 3 stages of knowledge. If you want to understand how it all connects, when we're born, well, genetically, that's in the first stage. That's what we got. And then from then on out, it depends on what we do. And then whatever we get comes back and bites us on the butt. It can keep us where we are, and that's what's happening. That's why the fall of mankind is the biggest mistake we've ever made, because we're still making it now. That's the most important thing we need to understand. We need to know, what is it to correct. It's simple. It cannot be anything else but cooking our food. Cooking destroys our food on so many levels. Even if you take the biophotons and throw that out the window, it does so many other things. It allows us to make the second mistake, eating animals. It allows us to make the third mistake, eating plants we're not biologically adapted to eat. We wouldn't be processing our foods. We wouldn't be that stupid, and we sure wouldn't be so stupid to be using chemicals. Those are the 5 mistakes: fire, animals, plants we're not meant to eat, processed foods, chemicals, GMOs, artificial fertilizers, pesticides, all the additives we got in our foods. And it's all because of cooking. The first cause. And again, why first cause? Because there's a subsequent cause. Why original sin? Because there are multiple sins. What's the original sin? What's the original mistake? What's the mistake that allowed us to hunt the animals to begin with? How did we hunt animals to begin with? We set the forest on fire once we mastered fire. But when you think about when we mastered fire and how long it took before we cooked our food, we went 37,000 generations before we finally said, hey, let's go ahead and start cooking the food now. Why did it happen? Who knows? I don't know what happened in the first stage of knowledge. Maybe if we ever correct the fall of mankind, we'll finally figure out what it was so that we can possibly avoid it. But there's a good chance it's unavoidable. And I've thought about this enough to realize that there are a lot of planets throughout this whole universe that are like ours. There's going to be guardians on those planets, just like there's guardians on our planet, like we're supposed to be. And I'm sure this is a common mistake. I'm sure if we could accumulate all the information from all the other planets, you're going to find a vast majority of the planets have had to deal with what we've had to deal with. And then we're faced to either become extinct or modify what was available so we wouldn't, die out. We're opportunistic feeders and eaters. So there's no doubt that the cooking of our food might have allowed some of us to continue to survive if the conditions weren't favorable. But now that they are favorable, there's no need to keep making that mistake. And of course the problem is most of us don't want to admit it's a mistake. So how do you convince anybody that any of these are mistakes? It's simple. Stop doing any one of them, you'll notice an improvement. Stop doing all 5 of them. Wow, that's when it gets exciting. And that's what my solid food vacation does on a temporary basis. It's not threatening. Just do it for a couple days. Do it for at least a week. And if you're still having stuff come out of you, and if you're losing a bunch of weight and you're feeling better, or maybe even not feeling so good, but you understand the connection because you're seeing why you weren't feeling good, you're stirring this stuff up, go the distance. This is an exciting time to live, to realize that we can correct the fall of mankind. We got to get past all of the bullshit bombarding our brain that takes away our responsibility, making us think that the dark side of our behavior is just part of our nature, it's part of our DNA, nothing we can do about it. That's what the people who rule us want us to believe. It's not true. We create this dark side to our behavior. And it's the collective shadow that basically keeps us where we are. That's why I say this over and over. We all play a role, either keeping us here or getting us out. Now, you might not want to admit or accept that cooking is the fall of mankind, but hey, you embrace raw food, you like it and everything else. Fine, good. Glad you found some benefit to it. Why are you keeping other people from benefiting from it? Why are you letting your little ego get in the way of this message? You guys need to think a little bit more about what you're doing and why you're doing it. What's in it for me? How can I help? And the people who need to hear this, unfortunately, don't even watch my videos. They just want to crap on me because they're either shills or their little ego somehow has been bruised over the course of a decade or so. But I've challenged people before on this. Not once have I gotten a good answer. If cooking isn't the fall of mankind, what is? And you can't go up here into the first stage of knowledge. You can't say it has to do with temptation or some bullshit like that. Because I don't want to know what's before the second stage. I want to know what to correct. Can you do it? And a lot of people will say, well, it was eating the animals. That's something we're doing. And that's a really good answer because eating of the animals darkened the dark side of our behavior, but it's not what caused it. If you think this out, back to the first cause, you'll realize if there wasn't already something wrong with us, we would have never eaten the animals. And what was wrong with us? We cooked our food. It altered it. It destroyed the life force in it. It destroyed enzymes, biophotons, vitamins, minerals. Changes the carbohydrates, the proteins, the fats. Our food is altered. We become altered. We've got a feedback system that tells us that we're making mistakes. But it's easy to get addicted to something that you need. And when it comes to satisfying our needs, it can get really tricky. It can get really, really tricky. If you think about it, I'm hungry. I need something in me. I'll eat something less than ideal, but hey, I don't have that all gone feeling down here anymore. It must have worked. You know, life is such an illusion on this planet on so many levels. We're bombarded into certain belief systems that are tweaked a certain way so that we'll never understand the truth about the fall of mankind. It's the most important thing that has to be kept from us. When you look at the people who control everything, the powers that be, there are several beliefs that they have to make us accept. One is an illusion of scarcity, and the other has to do with contagion, which of course has to do with our health. Health is number one. Everything on our planet revolves around our health. Everything. Or I should say lack of health. Powers that be want us to keep us sick. That's why our so-called experts are so incompetent. That's why when you study any other area of any other field that has the potential to solve our problems, whether it's philosophy or logic or religion, spirituality, whatever, these are going to be infiltrated so that the truth is not refilled. The truth is simple. We're not supposed to cook our food. It's not any more complicated than that. I've been coaching people for a long time. I've read a lot of books on this. I've been studying this for a long time, well over 27 years. Everybody like myself who has this much knowledge and experience sees the connection and realizes that everything traces back to that first wrong bite of the wrong food. That is the first cause. You have to acknowledge it for what it is. And that should be exciting news. And not go looking for reasons why, oh, it can't be a solution because we can't feed the world that way. I just read that the other day by someone. Thinking, guys, it should be nice if they'd watch a couple of my videos. Then they would know better than saying something like that. You cannot blame the lack of raw food as a reason for it not to be the solution. Simply because the demand's not there right now. Yeah, the world can't feed people raw food. Well, not right now, because only a small percentage of us are doing it. We reached the tipping point. That's going to change so fast. Everyone's going to want it. And you don't think we're going to supply it? That's ridiculous. I guarantee you, if we can reach the tipping point, if enough of us can take a solid food vacation to help people realize we're making 5 main mistakes, and it doesn't matter if you understand the fall of mankind, to me, it helps motivate me to quit eating that evil shit. Because that's what it is. It's evil. It's the opposite of living. It's not live anymore, it's dead food. Think about it. Live food, raw food, what's the opposite of that? Evil. That's what they tried to warn us a long time ago. And of course now, we have a dark side to us that we didn't have before. And some people are going to try to say, well, that's what the fall of mankind is. You've got to go back to the first, to what becomes before the mistake, because that's our problem. We're flawed. That's what someone wants you to believe. No, we're not born that way. We're not born flawed. There's not a flaw in our thinking. There's a flaw in what we're doing and passing down. We can change all that. We need to realize how powerful our message is, my friends. And I know, if you think about it, there's probably some people it'd be best not to even bring the subject up, because it's going to interfere with their current belief system. So that's why I always like to customize what I say, and that's why I lose subscribers every now and then when I talk about things like this that might be in conflict with their belief system, and they may have a hard time with metaphorical or gray areas. It's got to be black or white. I understand how some people are in that relationship. So I wish I could somehow keep certain people from watching some of my videos. Warning, this video is not for you. And I hope if I ever say anything that goes against part of your belief system, that you can mark it up saying, okay, the guy's pretty smart, he's accurate on a lot of things, but I can't believe everything he says. I'm sure I have some flaws somewhere. In fact, it'd be foolish of me to say that I don't. But most of what I share with you guys are not those areas where I think I might have flaws in. I'm pretty certain about a lot of things that I go over. I know the power of our food, there's no question. I know the destructive effect of cooking our food, there's no question. I know every culture on this planet has warned us about this. I know there are other stories that say, oh, this is what happened. We were genetically modified from the Anunnaki. Any story that takes away our solution should be suspect. Any story that says, oh, it has nothing to do with cooked food is suspect. That kind of makes you want to throw the whole thing out. In fact, many times when I would read a book on nutrition, I would know whether to even waste my time just by looking in the index to see if they even talk about fasting or raw food. That pretty much tells me that they are clueless. The truth is hard to find on this planet, as Plato once said. Most people don't have it, so they act stupidly and wrongly. Indeed, the truth is hard to find. Life is an illusion. The hero's journey is both a thrill and challenging at the same time, isn't it? What's it going to take, folks, to get through to people? I've always relied on what Nietzsche said, with a strong enough why we can bear almost anyhow. And I know by offering people 1,000 whys, people are going to find one they don't like and all of a sudden not like you for all the other ones. It's a tough thing to do. But man, it's worth it. It really is. When you see the results for yourself, that's exciting. When you help people around you, that's exciting. And then, with a little imagination, you can't help but think, God, what about that crazy lady at the store that was going off on everybody the other day? What would happen to her if she did this? And what about that bozo, or those two bozos, that almost got in a fight the other day on the street? Road rage. What would happen to those guys? What if all of us cleaned up our act? What if? You ever thought about it? What if everyone on this planet stopped eating animals? Wouldn't that be a great world? Would it be paradise? No. Because we'd be still having problems within our control. Unless we correct those other 4 mistakes. There's 5 mistakes we have to correct. And that's not an easy thing to do. I started by correcting the second mistake. Quit eating those darn animals. Made me feel great. Got me wanting to know more. To stop cooking our food was a no-brainer for me. It appealed to my sense of logic. It doesn't even make sense to alter something and have it and spoil it before you eat it. You can tell what kind of food to eat based on whether or not it can spoil. All cooked food is going to spoil way before it's time. The key is, when you're eating food that can spoil, you eat it before it does. And when you can do that, eat it in season, woo! You're in for a treat.